may be considered the weakest dragon type in all of the Pokemon franchise, but it certainly has a heart of gold. Not literally, but it is rather adorable. And so today we are going to look at what real-life animal is like a Pokemon. What animal is like Goomy? We are going to be looking at 3 specific things that they have in common. So you ready? Join the safari and let's get started. Let's first take a look at Goomy, the dragon-type Pokemon that was introduced in Generation 6. Known as the soft tissue Pokemon. Looks can be deceiving because it looks like a little blob, and it is essentially a blob. But it is in fact a dragon-type Pokemon that will eventually evolve into Sliggoo and then Goodra. In fact, a lot of Pokedex entries even refer to Goomy as the weakest dragon-type Pokemon, which seems a bit harsh really. But as we'll see, they have some impressive adaptations for life in the Pokemon world, and some that actually seem to resemble the Partula snail, or the Polynesian tree snail, which I think is an animal that very well could be a real-life Pokemon. The very first species of Partula snail, because Partula is the genus of a variety of different snail species, was discovered in 1769 by Joseph Banks and the others who were on board the first voyage of the Endeavour. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, this guy has a shell. Goomy and its evolutions don't. But hold on, hear me out. We're gonna go through their 3 adaptations that they do have in common that make them incredible animals and Pokemon. Let's first start off, well, in the very front of the snail and Goomy, the antennae. Antennae. Yeah. Well, technically in Goomy, the Pokedex refers to them as horns. These horns are very sensitive, and Goomy often uses them to check their surroundings, make sure that it's safe. And if they do sense any danger, they're quick to hide, which the Pokedex entry in Shield likes to remind us that this is in fact how they survived. Although it's interesting, in Ultra Sun, the Pokedex entry states that if you grab the horns of Goomy, they'll feel a strong shock and be unable to move. And as we'll find with the Partula snail, well, it'd be quite difficult to grab onto their antennae because they're so tiny. One crazy aspect about slugs and snails is that they're actually in the phylum Mollusca. Does that sound familiar? Maybe like mollusk? Well, hopefully it is, because they're actually related to octopus, squid, oysters, cuttlefish. They got a big phylum. I was gonna say family, but that's a different scientific classification. With that in mind, snails and slugs, like Goomy, have interesting tentacles on their head. Now I say tentacles because obviously the Pokedex refers to them as horns, but in snails and slugs, these tentacles play a very vital role, similar to Goomy using them to check their surroundings and make sure they're safe. These tentacles in snails and slugs are actually retractable. The upper ones are known as optic tentacles, because that is where the light-sensitive eye spots are. 2 things about these eye stalks that are pretty ridiculous and make them like a real-life Pokemon are that they can move independently of each other and can even regrow if one gets lost. How cool is that? As if that wasn't cool enough, the eye stalks are even used for smell. Ooh, that would be weird. Ooh. You can sense with your eyes. I don't know if I like that. But it's still pretty rad. And we see that Goomy has 4 horns. Well, slugs and snails, we talked about the 2 optic ones on the top. The lower ones, the smaller ones, these tentacles are for feeling and also for tasting. So in a way, Goomy and the Partula snail do in fact share an incredible adaptation of, well, their anatomy. In fact, would you like your eyes to be on eye stalks and be able to move them independently and also taste with them? Let me know in the comments down below. But let's move on to adaptation number 2, which comes in the form of goo. Aptly named, Goomy, Gooey. In fact, Gooey is the hidden ability of Goomy, Sliggoo, and Goodra. With the ability Gooey, if the attacking Pokemon makes contact with Goomy or one of its evolutionary forms, the attacking Pokemon's speed stat is lowered. Goomy is covered in a slimy, gooey membrane. It's this membrane that helps protect it from attacks from other Pokemon. In fact, the Pokedex entry says that kicks slide right off of it. And in Pokemon Moon, it even says that anyone who touches Goomy is in need of a thorough hand washing afterwards. Now, the gooey mucus, when Goomy evolves into Sliggoo, gets a bit more gnarlier because this mucus can dissolve anything. In fact, that's how Sliggoo eats. As they're toothless, they spray their mucus on prey, and then once the prey is dissolved, they slurp it up. But luckily, our friend the Partula snail eats something a little bit different. As they live in the beautiful islands of the Pacific, they have a nice tropical appetite of eating rotten vegetation. That's because they're a detritivore. They spend their days hanging out, eating both decaying plants and microscopic plants that are found on larger flora. This is why their role in the ecosystem is so important, because they are able to support plant respiration. Getting rid of all the nitty-gritty, decaying, dying things helps the larger flora be able to flourish. And that is why, my friends, the mucus of the Partula snail is so important. It's an incredible adaptation to help them glide across foliage and stick to things while they're foraging for decaying plants and fulfilling their role in the ecosystem. But that's not all the mucus does for the Partula snail. Oh no. Not only does this mucus help lubricate the Partula snail, but it also contains a very special protein that absorbs moisture. And this is called glycoprotein. The more you know. But why is moisture important, and what role does rain have to play in the lives of both Goomy and the Partula snail? Well, that leads us on to the third and final adaptation that these guys share. If Goomy's body dries out, Goomy will be unable to breathe. So, as you can imagine, Goomy wants to hang out in places that are both damp and shady to protect itself. Now in the games, Goomy evolves into Sliggoo at level 40, and then you can get Goodra, the final evolution, if you level up from level 50 during rain. What I love is in Pokemon Go, they just recently released Goomy into the games, and they've kept this evolutionary need of rain in the games by giving us the rain lure. Or if you do level it up with the right amount of candies, when it's raining in your real life weather conditions as well. But why is rain so important? And is it really that important to the Partula snail as well? Well, when it rains, the Partula snail will come out at night, both to eat and to mate. Now this is where it gets really trippy, because they're a hermaphrodite, meaning they have both female and male organs. And if they can't find a mate, they can then self-fertilize to reproduce. Now this is where it gets really interesting, because most species of snail lay eggs. However, the Partula snail doesn't. They give live birth, which is partly why they have the name Partula, because they were named after the Roman goddess of childbirth. So it seems that both Goomy and the Partula snail share a few things in common. The sensitive antennae or eye stalks or horns, the importance of mucus, and the role that rain plays for both their evolution and reproduction. But it turns out that that's not all that they have in common. Goomy in the games can be considered quite rare. In fact, in Pokemon Go, I still haven't yet to find one. And sadly, the Partula snail seems to be far rarer than any legendary Pokemon. Out of an original 125 species of Partula snail, 50 of them are now extinct in the wild, and 24 species survive in captivity. But how did it get this bad? Well, it turns out it's because of two different species of snails that were introduced to the islands. First up was the African land snail that was introduced as a source of food for the people on the islands. However, they escaped and began to eat the local crops. So action was taken in 1974 to try to control the numbers of the land snails by releasing the rosy wolf snail. Now I know when you think of snails, you think, oh, they don't move very fast, but these guys do in the snail world. They can move 2 or even 3 times faster than other snails, which makes them one fierce predator. And sadly, a predator of our buddies, the Partula snails. For these rosy wolf snails were released on the island in an attempt to eat the African land snails that had escaped, but instead they went after the Polynesian tree snails. And this introduced rosy wolf snail ended up wiping out more than half of the Partula species. Luckily, through cooperation between 15 American and European zoological collections, some of these species were able to be saved from extinction in the wild. And professionals are working with the objective to re-release and re-establish these species that are extinct in the wild back into their natural home range. For more information, be sure to check out the links in the description below. So what do you guys think? Isn't the Partula snail amazing? If you enjoyed this Pokemon animal comparison, check out the playlist down in the description below. Or better yet, just stick around and click on this video here, in which I talk about another underestimated Pokemon, Magikarp. Go on, click it. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.